Welcome everyone! Today on Latin Everywhere I want to talk about Latin written in runes, more specifically in runes of the Younger Futhark. This alphabetic script was used in Scandinavia from more or less the 9th till the 15th century AD to write the different dialects of the Old Norse language, and it was mostly used for inscriptions. The Old Norse sagas, on the other hand, are found in manuscripts written in the Latin or Roman alphabet, more or less the same alphabet we use for English today. But, as I said, today we'll be talking about runes. I am myself not an expert on runes, so if you want to know more about them, it is best you look elsewhere. Personally, I really like the videos of Dr. Jackson Crawford, expert in Old Norse. You can find a link to his channel in the description below. The runic alphabet was used to write Old Norse in medieval times, mostly for inscriptions. As it is an alphabetic script, it is possible to write other languages with it as well, although it might not be a good fit for it. With the arrival of Christianity in medieval Scandinavia, the Latin language arrived there as well. It brought with it the use of the Roman alphabet and its culture of written books. But runes would be in use for centuries to come. As such, it isn't too big a surprise to find some Latin written in runes. Over all of Scandinavia, around 300 runic inscriptions in Latin are known. A large part of them is found in a Christian context, on church walls, crucifixes, and other religious objects, gravestones, and church bells. Others are found outside church. Lead and wooden amulets, wooden writing tablets and sticks. Of these writing tablets and sticks, many examples were found during excavations that started in 1955 in the Bergen district of the city of Bergen. These excavations in Bergen uncovered some 700 runic inscriptions and proved that runes were used in daily writing and were in use for at least the late 14th century. Let's now have a closer look at some of those Latin runic inscriptions. The first one comes from the village of Burseryd in the Småland region of southern Sweden, and it was written on a church bell. It reads as follows: Annus incarnationis Domini millesimo ducentesimus tricesimus octavus erat facta haec campana bero scripsit. The meaning is quite simple. This bell was made in the year of the incarnation of the Lord, 1238. Björn wrote this. But there are a few other things to say about this inscription. Firstly, one notices the erroneously used nominative case for the date instead of the correct ablative. Secondly, the writer Latinized his Scandinavian name, Björn, to Bero, even though he was writing runes. And furthermore, the spelling tells us something about the pronunciation. Most Latin Cs are represented by the rune for the K sound, meaning they were probably pronounced K, as in campana and octavus. But in ducentesimus, a different rune is used, probably because it was more or less pronounced like I just did, like in most of medieval Europe. There is more to tell on this, but I think it's time to move on to some Latin poetry. I can't show you an inscription of what we are about to read because I haven't found a picture, but on a wooden writing stick from Bergen, probably written somewhere around 1300 AD, we can read in younger foot-art runes the following Latin hexameter. Dum das carus eris, dare destine de spicieris. This means something like, while you give, you shall be valued. Stop giving, you'll be despised. So, some 700 years ago, someone had the need to write this Latin verse, and he or she knew enough Latin to have memorized this Latin verse, but for whatever reason found it more suitable to write it down in runes instead of the Roman Latin alphabet. By chance, we know this verse is part of a longer poem. At the back of a 13th century manuscript in the collection of Cambridge University, a manuscript that mostly contains grammatical treatises from late antiquity, someone wrote a poem of 5 verses. A central dactylic pentameter surrounded by 2 pairs of dactylic hexameters. Classical verses, but used in a non-classical configuration. Gratia sit Christo, gratis redamus amico. Dum des carus eris, dare desine despicieris. Hoc verbum do das jungit amicitias. Qui plus expendit, quam lucri summa rependit, nullus miretur si paupertate gravetur. Thanks to Christ, let us return thanks to our friend. And then the verse we already read in runes, with a slight difference. As long as you give, you shall be valued. Stop giving, and you'll be despised. This verb, I give, you give, binds friendships. Who spends more than the sum of his profit repays? No one would be surprised if he would be weighed down by poverty. So this was our second Latin runic inscription. Often those Latin runic texts from Bergen have a religious content. This is how the first part of the Latin Hail Mary looks like in runes. Of course, the text is well known. Ave Maria, gratia plena, Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui. Amen. But it is quite an unusual sight to see it written out in runes. Other writing sticks from Bergen have a more erotic or romantic content. I'll show you an example of this as well. This one is partly in Old Norse, partly in Latin. On one side of the stick, the runes read in Old Norse, Allin var ek, I was born. On another side, the runes are used for Latin. Decor, amoenitas, flos amoris. Beauty, loveliness, flower of love. So these were just a couple of examples from a larger corpus of runic Latin. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you like this video and you want more of the same, please follow my channel. You can also support me on Patreon and buy me a coffee. You can find everything in my description below. For now, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye.